I'm the
public school system.
I'm filled with activist teachers who want to teach your kids. Are these kinds of teachers the exception or the norm? I'll let you decide. Let's take a look at this preschool teacher who teaches very young, very impressionable children. She's a TikToker, so you know you can trust her to indoctrinate your very young, very impressionable children. She titled her video, "Welcome to Queer School Teacher TikTok." I'm sure she's going to share about all the very reasonable, very age-appropriate things she's teaching her very young, very impressionable students.
Story time. This has been my first year in preschool with a class of my own, teaching alongside another queer neurodivergent educator, and we have been rocking our twos class.
These two queer educators are rocking their twos class. Let's just remember that these children are 2 years old.
We've been talking about gender and skin color and consent and empathy and our bodies and autonomy. It's been fabulous.
Because 2-year-olds are perfectly ready to start learning from queer activists about gender, skin color, consent, their body, and anatomy. This is so perfectly reasonable, nothing at all out of place here.
But our teaching team is shifting and a new person is being onboarded, someone with many years of experience. So today at the lunch table, when the topic of gender and genitals came up,
of course, because gender and genitals are completely normal lunchtime topics that just come up completely naturally.
One of our students plainly looked up and said, "Well, I'm a girl today, but I know that teacher Co isn't." No, they're NB.
Let me just repeat what this young student said, because apparently she was taught this. I'm a girl today, but I know that teacher Co isn't. No, they're envy. This student was taught that one of the teachers isn't a girl, but is envy. I have no idea what that means, but I'm sure it's perfectly reasonable for 2-year-olds to be learning this kind of nonsense.
And the look on the incoming teacher's face was priceless. She was shocked in a good way, and she just looked around at the two of us and said, "This class is incredible, and I am so impressed."
So, this new, experienced teacher completely approves of what these two queer teachers are teaching their very young children, and says it's incredible, and that she's so impressed. Isn't it amazing how all these teachers are completely on the same page? Isn't this the kind of teacher you want teaching your very young, very impressionable children? Here's another teacher who's on TikTok. So you know you can trust her to teach your children.
Okay, so during third period, we have announcements and they do the Pledge of Allegiance. I always tell my class, stand if you feel like it, don't stand if you feel like it, say the words if you want, don't have to say the words. So my class decided to stand but not say the words. Totally fine.
Ah, yes, a teacher who hates this country and is perfectly fine with teaching her students what she thinks about the American flag.
Except for the fact that my room does not have a flag. It used to be there, but I took it down during COVID because it made me uncomfortable.
She took down the flag in her room because it made her feel uncomfortable. She's ashamed to be an American. It's embarrassing to her. And of course, she's indoctrinating her students with these ideas. Isn't that wonderful?
And I packed it away and I don't know where, and I haven't found it yet.
I'm sure she has no idea where she packed it away. I'm sure it's not that she knows exactly where it is, but just doesn't want to put it back up.
But my kid today goes, "Hey, it's kind of weird that we just stand and then, we say it to nothing." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I gotta find it. Like, I'm working on it. I got you."
And I am sure she's working very hard at finding that flag to put it back up. She got you. Wait, why is she shaking her head and giggling? That seems to suggest she completely lied to the child.
In the meantime, I tell this kid, we do have a flag in the class that you can pledge your allegiance to. And he looks around and he goes, "Oh, that one?"
Oh, well, that's fine then. There is a flag that children can still pledge their allegiance to, so it's okay that she can't find the American flag. Isn't that a perfectly reasonable flag for children to be pledging their allegiance to? Don't you trust this teacher to be teaching your children? You know you can trust this teacher because of how many pride flags she has in her classroom. Let's take a look.
It's Pride Month! I will never not be awkward. That's fun for me. Happy Pride, everyone! It's June 1st, the start of Pride Month. Here's what I got going in my classroom. I got these flags from Target in like the dollar bin, so that's amazing. They didn't have all of them in the collection that they came out with, so I got all the ones that they had. As well as the inclusive pride flag. I pledge allegiance to the queers. I also got a really big pride inclusive flag. I need to put it up still, but it's gonna go up there and I need like a ladder. So that's gonna come later, but it's here, yay! So I love you all very much. For the people who are out, for the people who aren't out, you're appreciated, you're loved, you are enough. I support you, I got you.
How wonderful! Let's take a look at another of our esteemed teachers whom you should definitely trust to teach your children.
I hate Donald Trump. I'm gonna say it. I don't care what y'all think. Trump sucks.
She hates Donald Trump and says Trump sucks. Very reasonable, very appropriate things to be saying in a public school classroom to students.
Turn off the Fox News. Do your parents listen to Fox News? So what?
Of course, only Fox News is the problem. CNN and MSNBC are perfectly fine, completely objective media outlets.
Most of y'all parents are dumber than you. I'm gonna say that out loud. My parents are freaking dumb. Okay?
It's perfectly reasonable to call these students' parents dumb, because if they're conservative or voted for Trump or watch Fox News, of course they're dumb.
Oh, I could go off on it the whole entire class period if you want me to. But I'm not going, so you're taking chemistry. You need to do chemistry. If you don't believe in climate change, get the hell out.
Again, another very reasonable, very appropriate thing to be teaching students. If you don't believe in climate change, get out. Who cares about being more specific or talking about the nuances of the issue? Just get out. Another of our wonderful, completely trustworthy teachers read 2 books about transgenderism to her kindergarten students.
An emotional Rockland Academy teacher addressing a packed house of parents, many furious about her decision to discuss the topic of gender identity inside her kindergarten class. The teacher defended her actions to read 2 books she says were given to her by a transgender child going through a transition.
Her students became very confused about their own genders.
The kindergartners came home very confused about whether or not you can pick your gender, whether or not they really were a boy or a girl.
But isn't that good? We should be destabilizing our children's views about everything, including their own gender. That's what another of our teachers said on Twitter. He didn't want conservative parents interfering with his work to destabilize his students' views of gender, sexuality, racism, homophobia, and transphobia. Let's read his very reasonable tweet. So, this fall, virtual class discussions will have many potential spectators, parents, siblings, etc., in the same room. We'll never be quite sure who is overhearing the discourse. What does this do for our equity inclusion work? Those pesky parents, they shouldn't be overhearing what we're teaching to their children. We're working very hard to brainwash and indoctrinate these children, and their parents will just get in the way. How much have students depended on the somewhat secure barriers of our physical classrooms to encourage vulnerability? How many of us have installed some version of what happens here stays here to help this? Isn't it just so reasonable to teach students what happens here stays here? Whatever you do, don't tell your parents about my work to brainwash and indoctrinate you. While conversations about race are in my wheelhouse and remain a concern in this no-walls environment, I am most intrigued by the damage that helicopters snowplow parents can do in honest conversations about gender sexuality. like you said, it's the parents who are causing damage by getting in the way of these teachers starting honest conversations about gender and sexuality with students. These parents should just get out of the way and trust us to be the only ones who talk to their children about topics like these, because, of course, we're the experts, and they are dumb. And while conservative parents are my chief concern, I know that the damage can come from the left, too. If we are engaged in the messy work of destabilizing a kid's racism, or homophobia, or transphobia, how much do we want their classmates' parents piling on? Conservative parents are a huge concern to us. They get in the way of our messy work of destabilizing their children's racism, homophobia, and transphobia. It's definitely our job to teach their kids about these things, not the parents' jobs. It's completely reasonable, completely appropriate for public school teachers to be teaching these kinds of things. Right, here's one more of our esteemed teachers. He only has 180 days to turn his students into revolutionaries.
I have 180 days to turn them into revolutionaries.
The goal of every reasonable public school teacher, right?
How do you do that? How do you scare the out of them? Yeah.
His method to turn his students into revolutionaries is to scare the out of them. Again, what a great example of a great teacher.
Sacramento organization that is under the banner of Antifa is very loosely organized, right? So that, yeah, when there is like right-wing rallies and stuff, then we'll create an opposition to that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Where would he go to connect to some of these organizations?
No, I post a calendar every week.
Awesome.
And then so and I do it for extra credit, so they get points for doing it. So that encourages them to do it. And I've had students show up for protests, community events, tabling, food distribution, all sorts of things. When they go, they take pictures, they write up a reflection. That's their extra credit.
He puts a calendar in his room and gives students extra credit for going to Antifa events and protests. How reasonable, how appropriate, how unbiased.
I have an Antifa flag on my wall, and a student complained about that, and he said it made him feel uncomfortable. Well, this is meant to make fascists feel uncomfortable, so if you feel uncomfortable, I don't really know what to tell you. Maybe you shouldn't be aligning with the values that this is antithetical to.
And look at that! He has an Antifa flag on his classroom wall. If you feel uncomfortable about that, the problem is definitely with you. I don't really know what to tell you. Another reason you should trust us to teach your children is we'll give them white privilege surveys so they will think skin color is the root of all problems in this country.
And parents are demanding answers after their kids were sent home with this privilege survey. Seniors at Oregon High School asked to react to a series of charged statements. One example, because of my race or color, I can go shopping alone most of the time, pretty well assured that I will not be followed or harassed.
A lot of parents don't like what we're doing in the public school system.
When you talk about, which is pretty much going to be teaching kids how to hate each other, how to dislike each other, that's pretty much, I don't care what you say, it's pretty much what it's going to all come down to. You're going to deliberately teach kids, this white kid right here got it better than you because he white? You're going to personally tell a white kid, oh, the black people are all down to suppress.
That's actually a very reasonable criticism.
How do I have 2 medical degrees if I'm sitting here oppressed? How did I get, first of all, time out, because I only got 5 minutes now, not 5 minutes. 2 medical degrees, no mom, no dad in the house, worked my way through college, sat there and hustled my butt off to get through college. You gonna tell me somebody that looked like all y'all white folks kept me from doing that? Are you serious?
Again, very reasonable.
What's sickening about this whole thing is what y'all doing right now is already something I do in my community right now to speak out against stuff, because black folks are getting told by other black folks, oh, you know you ain't gonna be able to do nothing out there in the world because them white folks ain't gonna let you get no, oh, you know you're not gonna be able to do it here because the white man gonna keep you down. Well, how did I get where I am right now if some white man kept me down? How am I now directing over folks that look just like you guys in this room right now? How? What kept me down? What oppressed me? I work for myself from off the streets to where I am right now. You gonna sit here and tell me this lie?
Wow, that made a lot of sense. But of course, we're not going to stop our work to brainwash and indoctrinate your children who come through our doors. So send your children to us. Just trust us, they'll be in great hands.
Education is thus the most powerful ally of humanism. And every public school is a school of humanism. What can the theistic Sunday school, meeting for an hour once a week and teaching only a fraction of the children, do to stem the tide of a 5-day program of humanistic teaching?